Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fundamental Podcast. As we get close to the end of the year and start looking forward to 2026, I thought it'd be a great idea to create an episode all around New Year's resolutions and habit formation. And to help me out with this conversation, I brought on Peter Meglis. Peter is someone who helps his clients to do exactly that, help them get out of pain, get out of habits that are detrimental to their health and their life, and start building new habits that are really constructive and bring them towards their goals. So if you want to know why it is that you didn't achieve last year's resolutions and what you can do instead this time around, stay tuned. Let's jump into it. Hi, Peter. Welcome to the Fundamental Podcast. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Today, I'm curious to get into some topics around the end of the year. At the time of recording this podcast, we're in the beginning of December, and I think there are a lot of people out there who are struggling with the end of the year and the pressures that brings, as well as looking at next year and thinking about how they can approach or come up with New Year's resolutions and things like that, and how they can set themselves up best to really do well in the coming year. And so I'd love to have a conversation with you around that subject. And just for a little bit of context, why don't you just introduce yourself to the audience briefly and share with us what it is that you're primarily focused in, what you do?
Sure. Sounds good. My name is Peter Meglis. I've worn a couple different hats. I used to be a software engineer in the corporate world, but ended up, flipping my life upside down, bought a van, started traveling, I quit my job. I believed that there was some higher purpose for me. And so I've gone through a bit of a journey, but I'm now doing what I have always wanted to do, which is coaching other people, helping basically my past self, the lost high achiever who feels like they are destined for more, destined for a bigger purpose, bigger potential, but they're struggling in the present with those like bad habits and distraction, indecision. So helping them bridge that gap into how can we design a more intentional, fulfilling, purposeful life and actually get you into that life.
You said you felt like you were meant for something more. Well, how do you know that?
It really started with, in college, I had been on the computer science, software engineering track. I enjoyed math. I enjoyed computer science. I enjoyed building things. And software engineering was like that next natural thing. And I had this idea of I like building things. Maybe entrepreneurship is something that I'll be interested in. Maybe a couple years down the line, I'll get into that. But when I joined and started my software engineering job, I started to wake up and feel this kind of emptiness inside of me. I had been a tutor for computer science in college, and I loved that one-on-one space of helping someone figure out a problem, but without just being like, oh yeah, the answer is X equals 5. It's like, wait, okay, there's a strategy here, right? I need to figure out the words to say to figure out how to get them to come to that answer. And I loved that space. And I felt like I was missing that when I was working my job. And so I was like, what, this fulfillment is missing in my life. I'm working on things, but they're I don't know the impact that what I'm doing is having on someone else. There's too much of this disconnect between what I'm doing, the features that I'm building, the things that I'm building, and the actual impact it's having on someone else. And I was like, there's got to be something more here. I can't just be doing this for the next 40 years of my life, coding things and just doing this for what? For a salary and to travel. I want to impact something. I want to be in that space of actually helping someone.
Yeah, it sounds like it was missing that human element, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that was the indicator for me. There's got to be something more than this, this human aspect, this fulfillment aspect. There's got to be something more. And I didn't know, of course I didn't know, but I was I have to at least try and see what's out there.
It's so interesting because, I'm really seeing a lot of parallels in your story and mine because I went to university studying mechanical engineering. And I also started to notice, like, I mean, I didn't even get all the way through. I quit and then started building a property business. And again, it was like a bit like you, I was feeling like there had to be something more meaningful where I was having a real impact on people, on humans, and
Mhm.
having that interaction with people. And that was isn't that it's quite interesting because both of us went into fields that were very technical. It's not often the case that people who go into really technical fields then switch to being purely human centric, but in the case you've done that and so have I. In what you're doing now, do you now feel like you're missing parts of what you used to do, or are you getting that fulfillment and meaning from helping people?
Am I missing things from what I used to do? I mean, the core, like the fulfillment, the purpose is there. Like I feel like it's the thing that I've been wanting to do for years. It's the thing when I envision like my future, this is the thing I feel like pulled into. And so if we start to talk about like purpose, that's the kind of feeling that I associate with purpose, is this like pull into this envisioning that there's something bigger.
Mm.
And so that's there. I would say it's fun to build things. And I love taking an idea, being like, I'm facing this problem, this like technical problem. But like if I use this API and I built this and I did this script, like that could automate that. And then I would have that already solved. And it could be like doing it every day. And to go from that idea to actually doing it, to seeing it in reality, like that's a really cool experience. But there's something missing there. It's like,
Mm.
that's a cool experience, but I wouldn't quite say that's like a fulfilling. It might be more of a meaningful experience, but it's like, is it the fulfillment? Is it the being in service of others? There's still that piece missing unless you like build that application and use it to serve other people. And that's what I found. So some things, but I feel like this is the track. This is the track for me.
Right. And with regards to that track, what is it that you're now really focused on with people? What is it that you're really helping them with?
Yeah. I would say it's two things. There's the relieving the pain of the really like the pain of self-betrayal. It's like for months I watched my own potential waste away, as I was like every night I was like, I know I want to grow. And at this point it was like a course view of just like self-growth, self-development, self-improvement, personal. I just want to like grow and learn. And so I was like, oh, okay, I want to like read and like learn stuff and like grow. And every night it was like, I want to be doing these things, but I just end up on my couch scrolling because maybe some environment factors, dinner was too much, like carb crash. But relieving that pain of self betrayal, of like, know what I should be doing, but I'm just not doing it. Like, why am I not doing it? You know? So that's one piece. And the other piece is like, once we start to stabilize that, how do we get into like, what direction are we heading? Like, how can we build a more intentional, meaningful, fulfilling, purposeful life? And not like, I don't take someone in and be like, oh, in 12 weeks, like you found your purpose. And like, it's like, how can we build the systems to get you there, to like the reusable systems, the things that like you rely on these things over the next couple of years as you continue to find and explore and discover that. But it's really two things. It's like the bad habits and then starting the new good habits, getting into momentum. I spend a lot of time in that, like that space of like just starting.
Hmm.
How do we build something sustainable? I'm really big on like sustainable momentum, like building a sustainable life, intentional life. So it's really those two pieces. Yeah.
When you say sustainable, what do you mean what is a sustainable life?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really about, can I do what I do every day, like for the rest of my life? Am I grinding 25 hours a day? I mean, there's a place for grinding, but from my journey, what I've found is if I can find a sustainable day where I'm working enough that I'm not burning out at the end of the day or at the end of the week, where I can wake up every day, be excited to work that day, put in enough work, be able to go to the gym, improve all of the areas of my life, and hit Friday, hit Saturday, and not be like, oh my God, like I'm just like destroyed. I need a week off, right? It's like I want to be able to do my dream day, my dream week for the rest of my life. And that's what I think about as like sustainable.
Nice. Yeah, I love that definition. That's exactly what I'm aimed at as well. It's like, how do you build a life not as something, not working so that you can enjoy retirement, but really looking at what we can do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis so that, we have a balance and a mix. And balance doesn't mean equal quantities necessarily, but we have a mix of everything that we need in the day and in the week so that we really enjoy the life that we're living. And it's not just about, can I make it through the next 30 years so that I can retire and then enjoy myself? That does seem to be I think that's the way that the world is going in general now. Like we've kind of had the industrial revolution and that period of real focus on intense physical labor and then intense cognitive work. And now with technology helping us in all of those areas, it's like, okay, how can we now, with the tools that we have, build in a life that we really enjoy and that actually serves us and doesn't completely strip us of everything that we have.
Yeah. And I think it's becoming even more possible and realistic with technology, with social media, with AI nowadays. Like the tools, the usefulness is there. It's just about how can we use those to support ourselves in that new direction, in those new habits, that new life.
I suppose coming from a tech background, you have that knowledge of the tech side of things serves you quite well now because you're able to, you have the knowledge of the tools and can look at now how can you integrate them into the human experience.
hmm yeah. I mean, I use AI a good bit, but it's been a little bit harder, honestly, because coming from that tech background, it's like everything is like very technical and coding is like there's a bajillion like AI coding, like Copilot type of tools that help you with coding. Yeah, I realized I made this realization like a couple months ago of like I've gone similar to you, of like gone almost fully on the opposite to like human. It's like
Mm.
one-to-one connection. And there's no, I don't, it's like you're not talking to a chatbot. Like you're talking to a human and there are different skills that are involved in that, like holding space, empathy, like resonating with people. That is a completely different space than like coding a new feature and using AI. So I'm still trying to figure out. I see a lot of people using AI for social media and posts and things like that. It's an interesting, I think, space that we're currently playing in is this like AI kind of emerges more and more and people are using it in different ways. Haven't fully found the kind of uh strategy I want to use AI in my business because of that human element.
Mm.
I can use it to like help understand people, but like if we're gonna be on a one-to-one and like we're talking, I'm not gonna be like, oh wait, one sec, let me like chat GPT, like. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, how much do you use AI or do you see people using AI nowadays?
I mean, I see it everywhere. I do use it, and I think I struggle with the same sort of challenge that you have is working out where to deploy it so that it is really effective without it taking away from what from what life is all about or what the business is all
Yeah.
about, which is human connection. How can we use these technologies in a way that expands our capabilities without taking away from without it's like that difference between sort of home baked versus mass produced. If something's home baked, it's there's a lot of love and a lot of care, and that's not scalable. But then if you go all the way to the other side and go with mass produced stuff, then you lose out a lot of there's something in there that is lost. The soul is lost, and it is a challenge. I mean, one of the things I find funny now is the amount of posts that get put out by AI that people are using to try and connect with people, but are so obviously written by AI. And I don't know about you, but like when I read those kinds of posts, I just go, nah, done,
Yeah.
swipe straight past them or ignore whatever the person was saying. How do you find, like, how do you
Yeah.
interpret those kinds of
It's the
posts?
same. It's the same with me. And it's kind of funny because in the last couple weeks, months, I've started to intentionally add grammatical errors in like the first couple sentences of my posts, like as a flag that like, wait, I actually wrote this, you
Mm,
know? And yeah, I think I mean, I do the same thing. It's like, oh, this looks kind of ChatGPT-esque. Like, I'm just gonna keep scrolling. Like, even if it's a beautiful message, whatever, it's just like, it's that human connection that I feel like is missing. So
yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I think people will. We're still in that early phase of like people are trying stuff and people will learn, and you know,
Yes,
we'll
it's like
evolve from
anything.
there.
Yeah, sort of. It requires the pendulum to swing all the way, too far in one direction, and then kind of course correct and come back a little bit further, and eventually you kind of end up at a place that everybody's more or less comfortable with. What I struggle with now is originally, like, AI is based off a kind of a generic version of human speech and human language, and like originally, AI is modeled off human speech, but now I find that when I go to write something myself, that I have to be very careful that I'm not starting to copy that generic AI language. It's now like I'm almost like modeling the AI way of writing. It's kind of weird because we're
Yeah,
exposed to so much of it consciously and unconsciously. It kind of becomes part of the way that we think. And then it's like, oh, how do I make this post actually sound like me? Can start to be a bit of a challenge.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. AI is very powerful, and I'm finding nowadays that you have to be really careful with what you give it and what you ask for and what it tells you back, because I'm finding um a lot of times it'll just like validate what you give it. And so I've done a lot of like chat GPTing, you know, AI Geminiing, whatever, pick your flavor of like self discovery. And that's been an interesting journey of like trying to pull out and understand more of myself, my
Hmm.
flaws, insecurities, how to get better, fixing habits. And it's a interesting and kind of like you're like stepping on thin ice because you're playing with like you and your experiences and your emotions. But yeah, I've done a lot of things. Like I do a lot of journaling and note taking. I use Obsidian as a second brain. And man, it's been so helpful to take journal entries, feed them into like an AI model and be
Uh-huh.
like, what are you noticing here? Like what's read between the lines? Like, what can I understand more about myself? And so it's very powerful if we can figure out how to use it in the right way.
Yeah, that's more or less how I've been using it as well. Is just trying to that that instead of using it as something to like produce final copy of, if we're
Yeah.
talking about social media content, producing final media, instead of using it as a way of exploring my own thoughts so that I get clearer on my own messaging and my own way of thinking about things. And then I go away and, if I'm creating a piece of content, I write it by myself, or I write a piece of content completely myself and then feed it, like you say, also just feed it into, I use Claude and feed it into there and
Hmm.
ask it, what am I not seeing? What am I not thinking about? What's the underlying message here? And it can be really powerful in that way. I mean, just the fact that we now have access to a tool that can provide us with the level of analysis that we'd otherwise require from somebody who is very specialized in therapy or an expert
Yeah.
coach for that. But it's only for a very specific task, and only if you kind of train it in that way. Otherwise, it takes you off in all sorts of unhelpful and sometimes destructive tangents. It's just,
Hmm.
yeah, it can be more harm than good, I think, if you're using it if you're relying on it too heavily.
Yeah, I would say, and maybe for kind of a listener takeaway, is like being careful and being more aware of like how much thinking you are outsourcing to AI, and especially in like a end of the year kind of New Year's resolution. Like AI is very powerful. It can help you in a lot of different ways. It can surface things. It can read between the lines if you give it enough context. But and I'm not going to claim that I'm like an expert on this, but like even I like I'll like, you know, get to a situation and be like, immediately go to AI. Like, what would you do in this situation? You know? But training that skill of, I think the downside we have to be aware of is like going into this new age of like just outsourcing all of our thinking to AI
Yeah.
of like anything that happens, I go straight to AI. Like I need help. And it's like insanely, like it has the most knowledge of anything, which is like incredibly powerful. But you know, we have this upstairs as well. And if we're kind of talking about this like self-improvement, personal growth space, you know, that is the real thing to train, is
Mm.
the mind, being able to understand yourself, being able to find, and because like at the end of the day, we live a life and we take actions in our day. Our life is directed by behaviors. Like AI can help us with that, but like we control the body that makes and does the behaviors. And so I see at the end of the day, like training this and training the body and the mind,
Mhm.
and trying to use and think of AI and chatbots as like a tool to help me, and trying to resist that like outsourcing everything to AI.
Mm. Yeah, like using it as a way to train your mind as opposed to replace your mind. Like when you were telling me that, I had this image of it's like rolling around in a mobility scooter the whole time, even when you can walk. It's like all you need to do is think about what is the long-term result of not using something that, like, part of your body, your mind, your physical body. If you don't use it, you lose it. And it's great to use these tools, but you've also got to use them in a way that you don't lose the ability to think for yourself. And we can use, that's the thing. The great thing about it is you can use AI to expand your mind and to strengthen your mind and strengthen your ability to communicate and think and all of these things. Or you can use it as a replacement for your brain, and you'll get the results that come from that, which might not be quite so much to your liking down the
Yeah.
line. So I wanted to get into, when we talk about like finding ways to train our minds and to train our bodies. And I really liked what you said at the beginning around getting people out of pain before, or needing, what that being one part of the process, getting people out of pain, and the second part of the process is kind of pointing them in the right direction or helping them to find the right direction. I think that's a really important thing to go into a little bit more detail on. What are some of the things that you think are most effective to help people get out of feeling stuck? Or
Mhm.
like if we just imagine the people out there who are listening to this podcast are likely, maybe you're somebody who has gone through this year and you haven't quite managed to do everything you were wanting to accomplish. And now you're thinking like, well, how can I do things differently next year so that I get different results? What's some stuff that people can try out that you've found to work?
I would say the biggest quick win that you can do is change your environment. Like get out of your apartment, get out of your home. And I'm not saying like move to Bali or like go to Europe. I'm saying like if there's a physical environment that your brain has associated with scrolling, with bad habits. Like our brains are very powerful, and they pattern match a lot. You get hungry at the same times every day, right? And so if your brain associates that couch, that bed with, oh, like this is where I go and I start scrolling. Like get out of that. And so the biggest thing I did was stop trying to work at the same desk that I was working at my job with. that I was
Right.
also watching YouTube videos and watching Twitch live streams and like, scrolling on my phone. And I would go to coffee shops. I would wake up, spend the first 2 hours of my day in a coffee shop, and my brain now associated that with, I go to a coffee shop, I open up my laptop. This is my time to journal, to do my own self-awareness, to think about my own goals and my week and the habits that I'm doing. And now my brain associated that place with growth, with this is my time. And so the biggest quick win you could do, just change your environment. Get off of the get out of the apartment, go for a walk. I think as we work outwards from that, it's really about creating space in your day, space to process, space to like give your brain a break from the constant stimulation. Essentially, notice again, I'm not going to claim like I'm a all expert, all being like I never scroll on my phone, but I have been incredibly like introspective and self-aware, and there's this particular state of mind that when you're in that kind of like agitated, like scrolling mindset, you just finish work, you go straight to like dinner, you go straight to watching a YouTube video. There's this state of mind that's like, it's like a suction cup, and it's very difficult to get that suction cup off. But once you do, you create that space where you can go, okay, let me breathe for a second. And then you can start to think with your brain of like, okay, what's the good habit that I want to do right now? And so as we talk about kind of like the pains of wasted potential, distraction, self-betrayal, a lot of it is going to be, what are the tools you can do immediately? Like change your environment, get outside. And then what can you do with that space? More introspection, journaling, meditation, train the gap between the thought that you have to open Instagram and the action of opening Instagram.
So
For most
pausing.
people and for my past self, there was like that space was very small. And when you're in that agitated, like stimulated brain state, when you're in the suction cup, it's very small. It's like, oh, I should open Instagram. And then you go immediately towards it and you do it,
Yeah.
And the more that we can like deload, deregulate, or downregulate, excuse me, the brain and get that out of that agitated space, deep breaths, a walk outside, a meditation, creating that space between that thought of, oh, I should open Instagram. If you have even a microsecond to be like, wait, I just thought of that. Do I actually need to open Instagram right now? Like that is your opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's also something that I see it. Like, I think if the aim is to be self-directed, and by self-directed being you're choosing the life that you want to live, you're choosing the things that you want to do, then you have to allow space to think about what it is that you want to be doing. And I notice this as well, like if I go from working to my downtime being scrolling on Instagram, I'm constantly in this heightened, agitated state. My nervous system is tense and vibrating at like just really at a higher level. I don't have time to think more than, like you say, more than a few minutes or hours into the future, let alone days and months and years. But it's hard, because when you're working and you're so hooked on the dopamine that comes from scrolling, that's that thing that makes you feel good. So you go from like a stressful job or a stressful business to wanting to relax, quote unquote, but you're not relaxing. You're just kind of getting a new hit of stimulus, and then all the time you're not able to just relax and then able to think and direct your attention intentionally. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's because I think that we're surrounded now by technology designed to take your attention. It's designed to capture and hold your attention as much as possible. And I think the real hack to being able to better achieve your goals and create better habits is focusing on owning your attention first, because when you own your attention, you can direct your attention and then you can direct it towards the things that you do want to do. Are there any, we talked about changing environment. If somebody is stuck and can't get themselves to get out the house, for example, is there an in-between step that people can do that you've seen to be effective that can help in getting them, maybe it's getting them up off the couch and out the door?
I would say at that stage, something external, like book a coffee with a friend, book
Mm,
a dinner with a friend, join like a soccer club or something to be like, oh shit, like Thursday morning at 9 a.m. I got to get lunch with Joel, or like, oh, I have soccer practice, like something that you enjoy, but like something to push you into that, oh shit, like I have some accountability here, right?
right.
I would say some external reason to get out of the house, because at that stage it's going to be hard, like intrinsically, to get that momentum.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. So just some form of external accountability really helps.
Yeah. I mean, I was working with someone who struggling to, like, he was ready for bed at 10 p.m. every night, but like feeling a little bit lonely, checking messages on Instagram. All of a sudden it's 2 a.m., scrolling his nights away.
Yeah.
And that was eating into his energy the next morning and during the day. And we had this call where it's like, bro, Monday was crazy. Like he woke up 8 a.m., out the door 8:30, and it was because he went to this business networking event. So something that he like was motivated to do, looking for another job, and he enjoyed that space of like being around other entrepreneurs, other like business owners. And the shift that created was like drastic.
Mm,
And so if you can have one of those like legendary Monday events of like, use the fact that you sleep every night as your like start to the day. Some days you'll wake up at 10, some days you'll wake up at 6:30, depending on where you're at. But like, use that, you wake up every morning. Can you fit something, a workout, a business networking event, a lunch, something out of the house? Because once you get into that momentum, it's like many of you'll I'm sure understand, and many of the listeners will understand. Like, if you're working down your to do list and you do that first thing, you're like, I got something done. Like, what else can I do? Like, I cleaned up the pile of clothes in my room. Like, I could wipe down the counters in the kitchen. Like, it's about how can you get into that state of like, oh, now we're in some momentum. Now we can start to move. Now we can start to go, okay, I feel good because like, boom, I did what I said I was gonna do that morning. Like, I'm up out of the house, and now how can we leverage that? Of now we can maybe start to work on going to bed on time to give us that energy the next day.
yes, that positive spiraling upwards.
Yeah,
You get just focus on getting the first thing right, and that's going to help to propel you, upwards and onwards.
yeah,
I wanted to shift the focus a little bit so we talked a little bit about how we can help to, reduce the pain first, because it's very hard to think about the future if we're struggling in the present. With New Year's, well, practically around the corner now. By the time this comes out, it will be very much so. What are some New Year's resolutions? The idea of New Year's resolutions, it's kind of a thing now. Everybody knows that they set New Year's resolutions and very few people follow through. But I would love if we could talk about some really powerful ways that people can actually go about setting things and then achieving them throughout the course of the year, and some, whether you've got some insights or some advice on how to do that like
Mhm.
properly or effectively?
Yeah. Look, I think we take a step back first and say, okay, so we set this New Year's resolution. Why did we stop in February, March, April, like however long we lasted? What actually happened? Was our goal too big? Were we expecting too much from ourselves? Was it like not the right fit? Is this still something that's important to us? Like, can we sit down, journal for 20 minutes and think, okay, I tried to do this thing. Can we put on our investigator hat and be like, what actually happened here? And if it's still important to us, then okay, we have some other tools that we can use. But just doing that process, many people will find some of the insights start to come like already.
Mm.
And then I would say after that, if you could do one thing, read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. That will set you up. And I lean on that book heavily. I would say to set a good New Year's resolution, find something that you are intrinsically motivated by. This is not like, oh, because my friends are doing it. Oh, because like it would look good for other people.
Mm.
What do you actually want to do and why? Why is it important to you? Find something that hits at that. Because if you can be the person who shows up when it's raining, snowing, like it's a blizzard out, and you're still doing it because that's what you want to do, like you will make it multiple years.
Yeah,
And so,
I want to. Can I? Sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
but
That's
you
one
know
thing. Go for it.
that's one of the things that I've experienced in my life. Like I went to university because I thought it would look good. Like I wanted to feel like I was accomplished in some way, and I thought like, oh, a university degree, then I'm gonna be somebody. But I wasn't doing it because I really believed in like gaining that knowledge, for example. It wasn't about the process. It was about like, can I have the title at the end of it? And the same went for when I started a property investing company. It was like, oh, I'm doing this because, oh, it's cool to be a property investor, right? And and that's why in both cases, didn't kind of go the distance. And yet what I'm doing now, with the coaching business that I've been building over this last year, as far as external success, like external results that have come from it, they've been very few. I can't say like, oh, I've made, 50 grand or whatever those typical cliche signs of success are. I can't point to those. But nevertheless, I have been so involved in the process this year. I've been so enjoying everything that I've been doing. I've been noticing my own journey and, the things that I've been learning along the way. And so it hasn't mattered. Those external validation has been completely irrelevant to me. So I just, yeah, I really resonate with what you were saying. It's exactly what I've experienced in my life over the course of years. And I can look back over the last few years and go, yep, that's exactly what I first didn't do and then did do, and how I noticed the difference, black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Sorry. Anyway,
super, it's super powerful. No, it's great. It's a great story. I, I think, I mean, look, when we talk about motivation, intrinsic, extrinsic, internal, external motivation, they are both useful. I wouldn't want to come across as saying, oh, you should only have internal, intrinsic motivation. You never use status. Like it can be useful. I mean, just the example we were just talking about, like if you're struggling to get out of the house in the morning, change your environment, like sometimes that external is really useful to like get that started, get you into momentum. And like, would I rely on it forever? No, but like it doesn't need to be forever, you know?
mm,
And so if we go back to talking about kind of New Year's resolutions, that's one big thing. It's like find something intrinsically motivating. Find something that you have some stake in, you have some interest in, that you enjoy, and find a process that you enjoy doing, an activity, a process that you enjoy doing. The second thing is, I think where people fall when they get to like that February, March is we set the expectations too high. We set the goal of like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna go to the gym 6 days a week, and it's like, wait a second, like we just started going to the gym. Like, why are we
Right.
expecting to go 6 days a week? Like out the jump. Like we did it for the first couple weeks, like amazing, but then like, oh, I was tired that one day, and like, oh, Thursday, like there was a snowstorm, and so like the excuses come up, and like the excuses will always come for anyone.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about building a sustainable life, building sustainable habits, we start way down here, which is like, if your goal is to run a marathon, your New Year's resolution is not like, oh, I'm going to run a marathon. It's like, if we're not even running, maybe the goal, maybe your habit, maybe your New Year's resolution is like, I'm just going to put the shoes by the door. And like on Friday nights, I'm going to go walk around the block. Like, that is it for the first like week or two.
Yeah.
And I hear in DMs, I hear in conversations, like the problem that we have as like the logical, like high performer, high achiever is like, oh, but that's too easy. That's like, that's beneath me, right? It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. But the trap is, we don't do that, and then we get to February, March, and we stopped running.
Yeah.
Like we fell off the habits and the goals. And so like, can we take our ego? And I'm not saying it's like, I'm not saying, again, like I have my own ego, but can we take our ego and say, look, I understand. I hear you. It sounds way too easy. It sounds way too simple, but let's just step aside for a second, and let's just be like, you and the habit. You have this goal. You have this thing that you're striving towards that is meaningful for you because you've picked it out, because you are intrinsically motivated by it. If you actually want to get there, you have to start somewhere. And you're not going to train for a marathon by running 26 miles on the first day. Like, it's going to be by every time you train, you put on your shoes. And so if you want to build a sustainable habit, a sustainable system, and get to your goal, it's got to start somewhere. And that's where I spend like all of my time. Is like a good indicator for the listeners out there is, if you're starting a new habit and you're struggling with like showing up, your habit, your action should be so simple, so basic. If you told your friend, if you told your mom, like, you should feel embarrassed by how stupidly simple it is. Like, that is the sign that you've found the correct level. And the big thing is like, we get into like ego high performer mode. Oh, like, but like that, I want to run a marathon. Like, yeah, you'll get there. But we build the habit first. We don't stay here forever. I like to bring habits down to 2 stages. There's the getting started, getting good. If we're struggling with getting started, the whole game is just showing up. It's putting on the shoes. It's just showing up to the gym, like walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes and then leaving.
Yep.
If you're already like, bro, I'm on the treadmill, I'm going to the gym 3 days a week, like I'm going walks around the block like consistently every day, amazing. Now we're in this stage where it's like, okay, now we can, speak to that ego high performer of like, how can we improve this? And rather than a walk around the block, can we go for a run? Can we do an extra like 5 minutes on the treadmill for a run? Can we lift, like, can we squeeze an extra day in? And that's where we can get into that, like, let's go. Like, what now we can go for it. But if like, we can't jump to that too soon, because the only way we get there is by showing up. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm curious, because how do you feel about, for example, if somebody sets that as a target, let's say the target is put the shoes by the door, put the shoes on, go for a walk around the block once a week or twice a week. Does it matter then if once they've got the shoes on and they're walking around the block that they in that moment decide to do more? Or is it really necessary that they keep the steps small until they've established the routine properly?
I would say it depends. I would say don't restrict yourself. Okay. But if we're talking about, oh, I want to run a marathon and you've never run before, like don't go run 6 miles on the first day just because like, oh, like you're really motivated. Like if we take a longer term perspective, we have to train up to that point. And so you could go for a run, and make it something easy, make it something sustainable, if you're like, I'm going for a walk, like I want to run, like go for a run. Like I'm not going to say no, but in this case, realize that like you're going to be sore the next day. And so you probably won't want to run the next day or two. And so just keep that in mind as you're walking of like, go for the run. But remember, if you're in that first stage, you have to show up the next days because that is the entire goal, is showing up. Putting on your shoes and going for the walk is the goal. That's all you have to do. If you go for a run, that's extra like cherry on top, whatever. It literally doesn't matter. Because like by month 2 or 3, you're going to be doing that anyway. And so again, I would say don't restrict yourself, go for the run, but remember like that you're training for this, you're building up, like you will get to that stage of like, oh, I'm going for the run. I'm running every day. I'm doing that habit. I'm rather than reading for 5 minutes, I'm reading like 30 minutes. But I would say the big thing is the whole reason why we split these habits into two stages and focus on showing up is we are hedging for the downside. There will be a day when it's raining out, right? There will be a day when you did legs the previous day and like, oh, dude, I can't run today. Like that day is when we fall. James Clear has a quote: we fall to the level of our systems, right? So if our whole habit, our whole goal is just put on the shoes and walk around the block, if it's raining, if you did legs the previous day, you can still check that off. And that is what will build a more sustainable habit than if your goal, your habit is like run 4 times a week, run for 5 miles, 10 miles a week, whatever, right? We're hedging for that downside until we can get to the point where our brain has built the habit where putting on the shoes and going for the run is easy. It's just part of, it's just like what I do. I'm just a runner, right? Once you get to that point, then we start to build. But it's hedging the downside. And I think this is where people get tripped up when they do New Year's resolutions. They try to go for that. I'm going to run 10 miles a week. When like, why don't we build something more sustainable? April's goal is run 10 miles a week, but January's goal is just build the habit of showing up. And that takes time.
Yeah. I like that. I think that, firstly, setting New Year's resolutions as habits you would like to develop is a good way of thinking about it, instead of it being, I want to run a marathon. Set the resolution as I want to run, or, I want to exercise weekly. Because once you've got that habit, you can run a marathon whenever you want. But I also like what you were saying, basically, that, doing more one day doesn't excuse you the next day because the goal isn't the goal is to build the habit, not to run a whole, a certain distance. So if you do 5 kilometers today or 5 miles today, it doesn't mean you don't have to do anything tomorrow. It just means you still got to do the habit. So it's really critical. It's also it's easier. I think there's a motivational structure in there as well, because if you set a habit or a behavior, habit is just a behavior. If you set a behavior as the goal and you do that behavior, then you get a sense of accomplishment and you're motivated to continue that behavior. But if you set an outcome like run a marathon as the goal, then until you've run a marathon, you're always going to be comparing yourself to what you haven't yet accomplished. And that's demotivating.
It can be motivating. I think the nuance here is like, we need some destination. right?
Right. Yeah.
We need somewhere to go, but something gets us there, right?
Mm.
So like our goal is to like run a marathon, right? But we don't use that in the present. To get there, we build the habit of becoming a runner, of training every week, of just like walking around the block and then starting to run and then starting to actually train consistently. And so we need that. I think as humans, as biologically like motivated creatures, we need to envision that like that feeling of like you're at the end of the marathon, your arms are stretched wide and you're like, I made it. Like that's what's gonna like pull you all the way there.
True.
But in the present, we need to get there. And we start that with smaller steps. So I think we need both. It's not
You
a
both.
it's not
Yeah.
a either or. I don't think that's what you were saying. But I think, yeah, it can be a trap. I mean, I think it's very well known, the kind of, maybe it's not well known, the dip in motivation that people have, the dip in like dopamine after hitting a goal. You know, they talk about like Olympic athletes that hit a goal and they're like depressed the next,
Yeah.
because like, yeah, they just like, they hit their goal. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, the fact that we can set new goals, but
Okay.
it's this balance of like behaviors, habits, systems, and like something that we're striving towards. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I like that as well. I agree with you that having that sort of like a hybrid approach, something for the listeners out there to know is that human beings are pursuit-oriented creatures. We are designed to have a target that we're heading at. Like you need a direction, you need an orientation. Now, that can come in different forms. And I think that, like you were saying, having those specific goals can be very, very powerful and useful to pull us towards. If we're wanting to complete a marathon, that can be really powerful. But it also can be, for example, an identity, like a type of state that we want to live in, a type of person that we want to be. So, even if it's, maybe it's not quite as relevant to running, but it could be something like, I want to be a marathon runner, so you have the behavior of, or the identity side of things as I'm somebody who runs, right? And then you have also that end goal of I'm somebody who completes these marathons, and I'm aiming at that end goal as well. But it is really useful to know. And I think for anybody setting New Year's resolutions, to give some thought as to like, what is the direction of this next year? 2026, what do you want the direction of that year to be at? What is it that you're really aiming at? And before you start writing down goals or habits or things that you want to develop, like have a real think about what is the direction that you're wanting to go in, and then you can work out whether the habits and the goals that you're setting yourself are in line with that direction. Because if they aren't, then it is likely that you'll fall out of the routine a couple of months into the year. But if they are in line, then you're more likely to follow through, I think. And then taking on those approaches, the steps that you were talking about to develop them on a day by day basis. And you got a recipe for success there, I think. How do you feel about that, and sort of like, direction setting, I suppose?
Yeah, I think, I mean, look, if you know the direction that you want to head, and you can figure out some goal that you feel is meaningful to you. And I think maybe a question to ponder in this kind of like direction setting kind of journaling session, if you will, is like, do I want to hit this goal? Or why do I want this? Is this something that like I see myself doing for years, decades to come? Like, I mean, fitness exercise is a fairly standard universal example of like nobody wants to be 4 days a week, like pressing under the bench press, like for their life. Like we just want to be healthy and like feel good and like, and feel good in our bodies, right?
Yep. Look good
That,
naked.
that is like the meaningful goal and the direction. And then it's a question of like, if we feel that that is really meaningful to us, the question becomes, okay, we found a direction. It's like, I want to be more healthy, right? I want to exercise more. I want to feel better. I want to wake up with energy. Then it's a question of, okay, great. We found that. Now let's break it down into behaviors and actions that help us get there. But if we don't really know like the direction that we want to head, then yeah, a lot of journaling will help, meditation, giving yourself space, thinking about reflecting on your past year of like what went well, what went well about this year, where was I feeling friction, what do I feel like I need to change, and why, you know, do I want to change this and start a side business, get to 10K a month because like I saw a 16-year-old on Instagram who's like on a yacht, or is it like I feel passionate about this business. I feel like, uh, I want to serve other people. Like, can we find like intrinsic motivation, right? In that early stage, can we find that direction that we feel is pulling us, that we feel we want to change? Because those things will get us a lot further than like, oh, I just want to make 10K a month so I can like tell my fifth grade teacher, like I made it, It's like,
Yep.
okay, I think we could do a little bit better than that, right? And that will come from like journaling, meditation, long walks, reflecting. But yeah, I would agree. Like the direction is super important. If you don't know the direction, it's hard to know. Everything is more clear in retrospect, right? And so we can take a look at 2025. We can take a look at the last year and reflect. And there's data in there, right? If we ask the right questions, if we approach it the right way with a level of like not beating ourselves up, but actually like taking a critical introspective look on like, okay, I wanted to do this. Why did it not happen? What can I change in my environment, my behaviors, my identity, to support that, rather than just like get back on the treadmill and like, oh, I'm gonna get to the gym like 6 days a week this week, like 2026 is my year, right? Like,
Yep.
okay, let's not repeat the same. Like, how can we change something, and take the perspective of like, let's tweak something and see if that works. Maybe we'll get to February and we've like fallen off our habits again. Okay, amazing. We've gathered new data and we can tweak something else. Maybe we can change something else, change the direction, change the habit, lower the bar. But yeah, direction, super important. Journaling space, all that, all
What
good
what
stuff.
you just said there, I think, is also really important. That the idea that you can't, if you've gone about something in a certain way last year, and you can look back and go, okay, this is what I did. This is what these are the results that it produced. Then, if you do the same thing this year, like if you have the same approach, you'll get the same results. Now, if you take a different approach and you still fail, quote unquote, if you still, fall off the rails or don't achieve your goals, then that's still more of a success than doing things the same way you've always been doing and getting the same results, right? It's better to get the same results with a different method, because then at least you learn something, right? And, as the saying it goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So at least if you do things differently, you're not insane. You might still suck at what you're doing, but at least you're not insane. And I think that's a good approach to have, like just being okay with experimenting a bit and taking that approach to the coming year. It's like, oh, how can I try things differently? How can I fail in new ways? How can I just approach my life in a different way without knowing whether it's going to work or not? But as long as it's different, that's going to be a sign that that's a success in and of itself.
Yeah, I think a lot about experimenting, and I think a lot of people get stuck in this like binary state of like success or failure. Like I hit my goals or I didn't. Rather than, if we didn't hit our goals, like there's information in there, right? When I speak to a lot of people in terms of like career direction, it's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Okay, that's okay. But you've already done things, right? There's information in there. We can look at, okay, you did that. You were a factory worker. You were a banker. You were a software engineer. Like, what did you like about those things? What did you not like? Can we start to create a map of, wait, all of like all of these things I didn't like. Okay, amazing. We have multiple data points about this thing doesn't work. It's not resonating with me. Like this habit doesn't work. This goal doesn't work. Maybe we can rely on that. And oh, actually, as I'm starting to journal and reflect and like look at the information in my life, I'm seeing like there's some data points over here. Like maybe we start to kind of explore that. Try out a new habit. Try like a new part-time job or like a new direction. And so I think we get stuck in this like binary thinking of like, I don't like my job and I don't know what to do next. Okay, there's more information in there, like, right? And the application here to like New Year's resolutions is like, well, I tried to go to the gym last year, or I tried to do this thing, hit this goal, and I fell off in February, March, April, whatever it is. Amazing. There's information in there. Something that you didn't work. Like, what was that thing? Maybe it was the goal was too high. Maybe it was you're expecting too much from yourself. Maybe the direction you should go in a different direction. Maybe the goal is just not important to you, or maybe it is important to you, and like we didn't start small enough. But like that, it's not a like, oh, I failed and or I hit it. It's like, okay, I failed. But like, let's figure out why. Let's put on the hat and like introspect and like think about what, and then change something. Be the experimenter scientist. Like, I'm going to try this tweak for 90 days and see if it works. If it doesn't work, amazing, right? Amazing. We could try something else.
Yeah. Having that curiosity about your own behavior. Try, win or fail, succeed or fail, just kind of trying to reduce the amount of judgment we place on ourselves. Is this good? Is this bad? But rather going, is this useful? Is this not helpful? And then just trying different stuff out. I think this is a great way. I think, I'd like to say to the listeners out there as well that because it can be one of these quite a heavy, stressful time, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves at the end of the year and thinking about next year. And we're trying to like, okay, this time I'm just going to really, grind my way through 2026 and achieve things. Is that a counterintuitive way, but a much more effective way often is to take the pressure off yourself, to just calm your nervous system, view the experience of your life as, or, see 2026 as a time to experiment with new things, as opposed to having to get it right the first time. And I think that kind of approach of being curious, trying new things, not feeling too stressed out about what will come out of it, will actually be the approach that takes you further. It's like, if you're not making yourself do something, then you actually want to do it, and then you naturally go further faster.
Yeah,
seems to work pretty well for me anyway.
And I'll throw one last thing in there is like positive reinforcement. Like, can you see the progress that you're making? And can we allocate some time towards reflecting on the progress that we're making? Like, we're going to get to February, March, and we might be like in the like analysis in the swing of things that we didn't see that where we started 2 months ago was just walking around the block, right? It was just like, I'm going to read for 5 pages. I'm just going to pick up my book. Like, if you can start to see that progress that you're making, that's going to make you feel good and make you feel more motivated, because we are constantly comparing ourselves to that goal that you were mentioning earlier of like, oh, but I haven't run a marathon yet. Yeah, but like, if you look, but not like 2 months ago, you were just putting on your shoes and like walking around the block. And so look at that progress, like look at how far you've come. And that's going to be another thing that will help you get further. It's like being able to zoom out and, wow, look at the progress that I've made. Yeah, sure. Okay, amazing. Yeah, we're not high performer, high achiever, like hat on. The ego comes in, is like, oh, but we're not there. Yes, I hear you. We can step aside, look at how far we've come. And that is incredibly motivating. It makes you feel good,
Yeah. I love it. That's yeah, that's a very powerful tool to start looking at where you've come from rather than where you're, how much you've still got to do to get to where you want to go. Yeah, powerful tip. Well, thank you. I think we're going to have to wrap up now, Peter, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing these tips with people. And I think it's one of those things that sometimes we just need the obvious to be said out loud in order
Yeah.
to remind ourselves of what we already know or what we've learned in the past, and that could be really powerful. And I know that there are going to be people out there who listen to the podcast who will benefit from what you've shared today. Is there anything that we haven't covered today that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, that
All
was
done.
about it. All good stuff.
Enough of a knowledge dump for one evening.
Yeah. We can follow it
Awesome.
up in another one.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely have to get you back on the podcast, and maybe a great idea might be a couple of months into 2026 we can jump on another episode and follow up with some stuff. That'd be really cool. And for anybody who wants to get in touch with you, how can they best follow what you're doing, get in touch, ask some more questions, those sorts of things?
Sure. I would say I have maybe 2 entry points. Instagram at Peter Meglis on Instagram, YouTube as well at Peter Meglis. Those are my kind of 2 entry points into my world. Find me on there, Instagram, YouTube. And if you have any questions, want to reach out, shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's probably the best way to reach out to me, and we can take it from there.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll put a link for those, for both the YouTube and the Instagram, in the episode description for anybody who wants to get in touch with Peter. I follow Peter. For anybody out there watching, I follow along, and he puts out some really cool stuff, not only tips and stuff on habits and goal setting, those sorts of things, but also of the travel and things that you always seem to be in a different place doing some amazing stuff. So it's great to kind of follow along and be inspired by that as well. Yeah, highly recommend checking him out. All right, Peter. Well, thank you once again so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to that next episode that we record as well.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers, man. See ya.